Louisa Treger is hier by ons. Louisa is natuurlik een van die beroemdste skrywers wat 'n mens nou kan kry. En sy is hier vanmôre om te gesels oor haar nuutste boek, The Paris Muse. So as jy boek lees, kom nader. Kom luister na die storie. Good morning, Louisa.
Good morning.
It's so lovely having you here this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on your show.
And so exciting to talk about the new book, The Paris Muse.
Yes.
It is a lovely book. I mean, anyone that has any interest in any kind of artistic personality or little out of the box thinking when it comes to creative people would love this book. And I would, before we start, just a quick question. Why do you write a historical fiction? Why choose that direction to write in? Because it's not your first book, no, by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah.
So I write about real women in history who are trailblazers in some way and who struggled to conform but, achieved great things. And the reason I do it is that there are so many extraordinary women who've been forgotten by history.
Yes.
History was really written by the men. So it's become something of a mission for me to uncover these women and tell their stories. But there's another reason, which is that in some ways, things have improved for women over the centuries. And in others, they haven't changed at all. I mean, look at some of the issues we're still up against, like, domestic violence, sexual violence, the pay gap between the sexes. I could go on and on. Oh, the fact that there's still no place in society for women who don't conform or women who are very strong. They're called strident bitches, whereas a man, showing those same personality traits would people
be a good leader.
Exactly,
yes.
cheering him on.
Well, might even be the President of the United States of America.
Might just be.
Yes.
And so history is not just a series of dry facts that happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's a narrative that we live and relive and keep reliving.
I love that you mentioned strong women. I always find someone like Jane Austen fascinating. One of my favorite characters to go back to personalities is someone like Jane Austen. Also reading about her life and not conforming to the time in which she lived. But why this story for you? Why Dora? Why did you want to explore her?
Well, it was her black and white photographs that really grabbed me. And anyone who's watching, please go away and Google them, because she has this knack for imbuing the everyday with this uncanny atmosphere that it's absolutely enthralling and it's really disturbing at the same time. And those photos grabbed me and didn't let go. I think Dora is probably most famous for being Picasso's weeping woman, his muse and his lover. But as well as being this fantastic photographer, she was a painter, a poet, and a radical left-wing activist. And I really thought this woman deserves her own story.
Wow.
Picasso himself was a shall we say, a thunderous personality.
Yes, that's a very good description.
And Dora fits into that perfectly because she was the same. She was similar to that. But they had such an interesting relationship, like you say, not conforming to the status quo of the day. And inspiring each other. I mean, what influence did she have on Picasso's works?
Well, she had a huge influence on him. She taught him a technique called the cliché ver, which is a combination of photography and printmaking. And they created these works together, which they signed Picamar, which was a fusion of both their names, Picasso and Mar. And she encouraged his political activism, which showed in both his, him as a person and also in his work. He painted his masterpiece Guernica, which expressed his outrage at the bombing of the Spanish village of Guernica by German and Italian warplanes in 1937. And so, it's this cry of outrage, at this atrocity. And Dora was instrumental in its creation. For a start, he wanted her to stay by his side while he painted, so she took hundreds of black and white photos.
Documenting.
Yes, exactly. So it's an important art historical resource. And it's also evidence of how close they were creatively.
Allowing her into the process when it's not finished yet.
Exactly. But she influenced the process.
Yes.
She encouraged him to forego colour, arguing that black and white had much more immediacy, like her photographs. So thus the work mirrored the photographs that she developed each night to show him the next morning. And in this painting, he portrays the sun as an electric eye overseeing the scene. And that's like the flash bulb
yes.
of her camera. And according to Picasso's biographer, John Richardson, she actually painted the flank of the horse in the centre of the painting.
Oh, wow.
My goodness.
And that was what she'd always wanted, that creative intimacy, you know, that they were partners as well as lovers.
We're talking about the relationship she had with Picasso, and the fact that it was totally out of the usual. It did not conform.
Yes.
How did they meet? How did you notice her?
Well, there's a real legend about how they met. And she seduced him, and she seduced him as an equal. She was so much more than his muse. So she was sitting in a cafe he frequented called Les Deux Magots in Paris. And she was sitting alone at a corner table, and he was standing across the room talking to his friends. And she waited for his eyes to fall on her. And then her show began. She was wearing long black gloves, which she peeled off slowly, giving him a chance to admire her hands, which were very slender and beautiful with painted nails. And then she took a knife from her bag and she splayed her fingers on the table like this. And she stabbed the spaces between her fingers, going faster and faster, the knife plunging down from greater and greater heights. And by the time she had finished, her hand was covered in blood because sometimes she missed. And Picasso was absolutely mesmerized. That was it. He was smitten. He went over and offered her a cigarette. You know, his hand was trembling, you know, you know, he's in the kind of feminine role. And I really loved that scene because it says so much about both of them.
The darkness.
The darkness. Dora was highly strung, transgressive, neurotic. And of course, Picasso had a dark side. He was superstitious, terrified of omens, of death. And I think it was their dark sides that drew them together as much as, you know, looks or talent or anything else.
Wow, that's incredible. Louisa, how do you do your research for books like these? Because this isn't your first one, and
No.
research must take some time.
Yes. Well, I love research, actually, because it's like being a detective and you follow all these ends, and some of them are dead ends, but some turn up gold, and it's just very exciting. So I read everything that she had written and everything that had been written about her. And I also spent a lot of time with her artwork, just kind of absorbing her nature from that. The highlight of my research was going with my children to Paris and the south of France, which is where my novel is set. And we kind of walked the Picasso and Dora Maar trail. You know, we went to their cafes, went to their apartments, saw where everything lay in relation to each other, walked along the Seine River, you know, soaked it up in all its different moods. And the same sort of thing in the south of France.
While we're on the subject of travel, why are you in South Africa? And why specifically this area? And you're going to Cape Town and Stellenbosch
That's right.
next week, if I'm
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm here to launch the book. But my late mum was South African, and I still have South African family here. And so South Africa is really the country of my heart. You know, it's like a homecoming. I love it here.
That's lovely.
That's, from someone that lives abroad, but your late mom was here. It's really nice to hear that this is still the country of your heart. It's beautifully said. And we love the fact that you are launching your book here. I have to ask, with these books that you write, where you write very strong female characters, and which I think is absolutely brilliant, what do you want the reader to get from these books?
Well, I want them, to get the sense of these extraordinary women who have been passed by history, as I said, and also to think about the issues women face then and now, and hopefully to enjoy a good story as well.
You're launching the book in Joburg at Love Books, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. That's tomorrow night. It's 6 for 6:30. I'm pretty sure.
At Love Books in Johannesburg, if people want to attend. And then afterwards, you're going to Stellenbosch and Cape Town.
That's right, yes.
Yes. Lovely part of the country.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Lovely part. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was an absolute privilege having you here, Louisa. Thank you for your time early in the morning, and thank you for this book. It is a lovely read, and like Jennifer said, the character of Dora is truly exquisite. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nou ja, as jy nou regtig ietsie soek om te lees oor donderweer persoonlikhede, kreatiwiteit en mense wat mekaar liefhet in 'n deurmekaar woel van emosies en met passie, is hierdie nou die ding om te soek voor.